You put it in there, right?
Yeah, they got it.
All right, well, we go ahead kick it off. You're gonna have to hit the thing and let me know when we live.
We live right now.
All right, so we good then. All right, so you know how we do. Yeah, it's in there. So we're gonna let the room pile up for a second there. How everybody day going today? How you doing, Dr. Kern? How you feeling?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing?
Oh, just sitting back, enjoying the moment. Glad to have a person that actually deals with vaccines, virologist, somebody that's working in the field. So yeah, that's important. Somebody that's published. You know, that's kind of important for me. That's our thing around here. We say source up or shut up. A lot of conversation. So yeah, give us a couple seconds that the people come in the room. And we're about to get this started. What's going on, Mr. Kent?
What's up, man? Man, another day, another dollar. Glad to be here, man, with y'all. Some of the smartest cats I know. Glad to have Miss Karen Kotloff as a guest.
That's doctor, man.
Doctor, I'm sorry.
Put some respect on that name, man. We respect the doctors around here, man.
Dr. Karen Kotloff.
Please. It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me here. Good night. Good evening to everybody.
Yeah. So, okay, give it one more second. There's a couple people coming in. We see who we got in the chat room. All right, I see you, Mr. Wright. PseudoKillas on deck. What's up, Jolanda? How you doing? I see you.
Peace
I see you.
Sister Jolanda. Peace out there to the sis.
Yeah, she stayed doing what she's supposed to do. Appreciate that work. Anusha, how you doing, sis? Glad to have you in the building, moderating. I see y'all. Okay. All right. So I know you only got like an hour, and we probably done chopped into that, right? So today's show, y'all already know what it is, family. So look, Black African Power. What's good? What's happening? A well-organized lie defeats a disorganized truth every time. Woo-hoo-wee. Man, y'all already know what it is, man. It's the PseudoKillas on deck. We come to do, we got to do, and we're going to do, we got to do. We standing tall, we standing strong. Hey, PseudoKillas on deck. What's good, Concrete Corey? How you doing, man? What it do?
Peace, man. Here to, get some good information out there and clear up any misinformation that's out there as far as vaccines and viruses. Hopefully, we all learned something today, and I just want to let everybody know that a lie will make it halfway around the world before the truth get up and get his pants on.
You know it is. Hey, Truth Ministries, what's up with you, man? Be more in effect, man. Official pseudo killer. What's up, brother?
What's going on, bro? Just happy to be here today. Happy to have an actual person that actually works in the field. We appreciate you more than you actually know. You know what I mean? Because it's a real problem going on in our community with the misinformation. And that's why we having you here, so you can try to clear some of it up for us.
Hey, Kent, man. Clark Kent. What's good, man? What it do, brother?
What's up, man? Ready to learn, man. Like I said, glad to have a doctor on board with us today. It's going to be a good one, man. Appreciate you, man.
Gonna be a good one. Hey, Chef Fennell, man. What's up with you, man? B Moore's favorite. What's up with you, Chef?
Chef, I think he's trying to get his sound together right now.
Oh, is he? Well, man, he missed it. Well, let me introduce Dr. Kern Kotloff. How you doing, Doc? How you feeling? Glad to have you on today.
Well, thank you. It's really my pleasure to be here. I'm so honored to be asked to join this program. And what I hope to be able to do is just tell you a little bit about what I know about vaccines and how the COVID vaccines were developed, and then give people an opportunity just to ask questions. Any question is a good question as far as I'm concerned. So I'm looking forward to having a great conversation.
So I actually appreciate this. I know you like a lead author on a paper that's published in the Lancet. I know you also published some works in PLOS, neglected diseases. And like I told you earlier, the guy that actually set that up, the doctor that set that up, is one of my favorite, Peter Hotez. Vaccines did not cause Rachel's autism. And so it's important to have people that's published because we talk about journals all the time. So, like, we really appreciate you being here. You work at the University of Maryland School of Medicine. And based off my studies, you do a lot of work in Africa. And most people don't know that the second leading causes of death, right, abroad, specifically in third world countries, is diarrhea. And so I know y'all do that work on that. So, I'm gonna let you get in. I know you said you're gonna have a little slideshow. Maybe you talk about the work you do in Africa and we can get it in.
Okay, that sounds great. All right, now you're gonna have to be patient with me. I am, it says host disabled participant screen sharing.
Yep.
Gotta go and look, give it a chef. You got a little screen share.
You the host, you the host now.
Oh, he just switched it over like that, ain't? Okay. Wow. Man.
This is the
I don't know
hard.
why you did that, chef. Let me see. Why did he do that? Chef, you got to take that back. I can't do that right here. I had to do that all the way in the, let me see.
So
Yeah, you got
Chef is the host now. He's the
yes.
host.
Okay, go ahead, chef. Switch it, give it so she can screen share.
Done.
It's done. Okay.
Yep.
There you go,
okay.
doctor.
Let me find, I think, here we go. Get to the top.
Yep, we see you.
You see it?
Yep.
Okay, here we go. So I have actually been doing work on preventing infections with vaccines since before a lot of you were even born. I would say it's been well over 30 years now. As Kent said, for the last since about 2001, I've been doing most of my work in Africa. But then when COVID hit and I couldn't travel, I started running some of the COVID vaccine studies here. So that's what I've been doing. And I just want to share my experience with you, show you some slides about how the COVID vaccines are developed and what the safety profile is like and how well they work, and then give you an opportunity to ask some questions. So we'll start here. It's hard to talk about COVID without just appreciating what it's done to our lives and our world. So this information is as of December 30th, 2020. There have been 80 million cases of COVID in the world and over 1.7 million deaths. And you miss a couple days and it just keeps growing. And what these little graphs here on the bottom show is the number of cases per day since March and the number of deaths per day since March. And you just see that every day these numbers continue to increase. And now that you've probably heard, we have this strain that's circulating in a lot of countries that is very contagious. I think that we're going to see this situation getting worse before it gets better. So this is what the United States looks like as of the end of the year. And this is the number of new cases each day. So people talk about waves. This was the first wave in the January to May, and then there was another bump during the summer, which is unusual for a coronavirus or respiratory virus. It's usually winter time, but then when winter came, this third wave is just huge. And right now we're seeing over 300,000 deaths and about 20 million cases in the United States. And at this point, we have more than 2 deaths in this country per minute from COVID. So this is why we need a vaccine because this has to stop. It's just not okay, as we all know. I think it's also important to appreciate who has the greatest need for vaccines. And if you look at this table here, this is age in years, so 65 to 74 years, 75 to 84, 85 and above. And it compares the number of deaths or the risk of death to young adults, 18 to 29. And you can see with each decade, the risk of hospitalization and death increases very, very substantially. So increasing age, and it really starts at about 50, is a big risk factor for severe disease. People who have underlying health conditions, and these are the conditions that we've all heard about, including smoking, diabetes, pregnancy, obesity, lung disease, kidney disease, cancer, heart disease, all increase your risk of severe disease. And this is a little bit of a busy slide, but what this shows is in each row, these are cases, hospitalizations, and deaths. And it shows that ethnic and racial minorities are at increased risk of both catching COVID and having more severe disease. And you can see this is American Indian, these are Asian, this is Black African American, and these are Hispanic and Latinos. So compared to Caucasians, the risk is higher in minority groups. And so most scientists believe that vaccines that produce widespread immunity are likely to interrupt the ability of coronavirus to spread from one person to the next and to harm our population and the people that we love. So how are vaccines developed? I think it's good to understand that because for me, the fact that it is such a standardized process and tells me that steps haven't been skipped in developing this vaccine. So for any vaccine, the first thing we do is get an idea for a vaccine and then test it in the lab and with animals and see if it's likely to be safe and protect the animals from the infection that we're interested in studying. So it's not a perfect predictor of humans, but it's a good enough predictor for humans. And it's the best we have. So then once we do that, then we go into phase 1 studies, and phase 1 are small studies, see just a couple people. So it's small numbers, they're healthy adults. So that way, if there's a reaction, they could tolerate it the best. And the big question we're asking is this safe? And also, does it give immune responses in our blood that's likely to protect us from the real infection? And then in phase 2, we give the vaccine to more people, larger number, and it's closer to the target population. So we'll include older people and we'll include people with underlying medical conditions. And again, what's most important is safety. We also look at the immune response. We'll try out different doses to see which looks best and different schedules. Is it best to give it 3 weeks apart or 2 months apart? And those kinds of things are looked at. And then phase 3 is what you're hearing a lot about now, and that's large groups of people. So the COVID vaccine trials are at least 30,000 people in most instances. And we test it in the target population because we want the vaccine to work in the people who are most susceptible. And the main question that we ask is, does it prevent disease? So people say, can the vaccine cause disease? No, there's enough disease in the community that we do these studies by vaccinating a group of people and giving what we call placebo or salt water to a group of people. And then they go about their daily lives, and many of them will contract COVID. And we look to see whether those who were vaccinated are protected and they don't get COVID, but the people who got placebo do. And we want to know if the vaccines make the disease less severe. And we're also still following safety very closely. So people say, well, normally I heard it takes 15 to 20 years to develop a vaccine you go through. the animal studies, then phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and then finally licensure. And then once a vaccine gets into the later phases, then the companies will feel like it's safe to start manufacturing. They don't want to do that at risk before they know if it's going to be a go with the vaccine. So they wait. Well, why is it that we could develop COVID vaccines in 12 to 18 months? It's because we did stuff at the same time. And most importantly, we started manufacturing the vaccine. That's what the government put billions of dollars into with Operation Warp Speed, to get the companies to start manufacturing the vaccine at risk before we went through phase 1, 2, and 3 and knew if it was a go. And so by the time we got the phase 1, 2, 3 data, they're ready to do large scale manufacturing and start rolling it out. So that's the main reason we got to go so fast. So now I'll tell you a little bit about the vaccines. This is the devil. This is the coronavirus. And it does make life a little easy for us because it's got these spikes on its surface. And these spikes are what the virus uses like a lock and key. If the key is the spikes are inserted into our cells. So the hole in the lock is the receptor, or where the spikes, how the spikes attach to our cells and then enter it and give us infection. And so if you can prevent that from happening, so that key can't go in the lock because you have immunity that coats the spike protein, then if you get the real infection, you'll be protected. So all of the vaccines that are being tested have one form of this, just the spike protein in one form or another, not the whole virus. So there's no living virus to give you infection. It's just the spike protein. And many of them use, this is the gene here, say, that makes the spike protein. And they take advantage of that because we're so sophisticated with genetics now. So to tell you a little bit more, if this is the vaccine and this is the real coronavirus, you take the little genetic code when you make these messenger RNA vaccines like the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines. You just take that code, and here it is, and put it in a little envelope of fats called lipids. And then you inject this. This is the vaccine, just a little genetic code and the lipid. And then this vaccine enters our cells, and our cells do the manufacturing. We don't need a manufacturing plant. Our cells make the spike protein, and then our body sees that and makes immunity. And so if we're ever exposed to the actual infection, we have immunity. So this is just another look at it. Here's the vaccine with a little bit of genetic code. It gets injected into our arm. It goes into our muscle cell. Our muscle cells then make the spike protein, and then our body makes immunity to that, so that we're then protected if we ever see the real virus. And this is just a look at what the protection looks like. So this is the virus with its spike, and these are our antibodies, and the antibodies coat each of the little spikes so they can't get into our cells. So we kind of fool our bodies into thinking we have the real infection. Our body makes antibodies, and then when the real infection comes along, we're protected. So this is just kind of how it works. The antibodies prevent the key from going into the lock. So right now there are, my computer has a mind of its own. There are 6 vaccines that are in development in this country. 2 are messenger RNA, and I showed you how they work, and that's Moderna and Pfizer, and they've gone through phase 1, 2, and 3, and so they've been already so half of these people got placebo. So say they've already been in about 30,000 people total. And so we know a lot about safety and how well it works, and enough that the FDA gave emergency use authorization to start handing it out to people, or EUA. These are the other vaccines that are in development. I won't talk too much about them. There are the viral vectors. So they take cold viruses that aren't able to make us sick. They put a little bit of that genetic code for the spike protein in those viruses. They inject the virus, and then the virus starts making spike protein once it's in our cells, and we get immunized. And we should hear how well these two vaccines, one is AstraZeneca, one's Janssen, we'll hear about how well they work in early 2021. And then there's two protein subunit vaccines, and the Sanofi hasn't started yet. The Novavax study started on December 28th, and we're actually also, we tested the Moderna vaccine, and now we just started the Novavax vaccine trial. And what that consists of is just the spike protein. So that gets injected in a little bit of a fat envelope, and our body sees it and makes antibody to it. So that's the buffet of vaccines that we have that are coming to us. And why do we have so many vaccines? Well, the thought is that you need to take a lot of shots at the goal to make a goal. And so if one type of vaccine doesn't work, then you have another vaccine in the works. And so maybe that one will work. So that's one reason to have a bunch of vaccines. And the second is that we need to immunize the world. And so one company cannot make enough vaccine to vaccinate that many people. So let's talk about the Pfizer and Moderna mRNA, messenger RNA vaccines, because they're the ones now that are being handed out. And so what kind of side effects can you get? Well, in the study that was done with, one was 30,000 and one was 74,000 people, and half in each study got the vaccine, the other half got placebo. And when they took a look at the results, they found that there were some reactions that people got. The most common local reaction at the site of injection is pain, and most people got a sore arm. And then it was unusual to get the other things that are common, like redness or swelling of the arm. That occurred less than 1 in 10 people. Most people rated their pain or their reactions as mild or moderate, so fewer than 1% said they were severe. It usually lasted about 1 to 2 days. It was more common in younger adults, and it didn't increase after the second dose. So they had about the same response to both doses. What are the general side effects? So general side effects that you also look at are things like fever, headache, chills, fatigue, feeling tired, body aches, diarrhea, things like that. So what was seen there? Well, again, younger adults tend to get more reactions than older adults. For these types of reactions, you had them more after you got the second dose than the first dose. And but most resolved very quickly in a day or two. The most common were fatigue, headache, and chills, and less common were the body aches, fever, and diarrhea. Severe symptoms were uncommon, except for fatigue. 4% of people said their fatigue was severe, and 2% said their headache was severe, and that was all after the second dose. Fever after the second dose was seen in 16% of the younger and 11% of the older. And there were enough participants who felt like the pain or fever was enough that they took some medication, and that was about, on average, about a quarter to a third in the older groups, and a quarter to a half of the younger groups. So you can just think about this for a minute and think, one is that you've got to expect that when you get this vaccine, you might not feel very well for a day or two. When I asked the participants in the Moderna study, after they told me about these reactions, would they tell their friends and relatives to get the vaccine, and they said, well, maybe when I was going through that, no, but now absolutely yes, because it's a lot better than getting COVID. So you have to be prepared that you might not feel well for a day or two. The other thing that you can see, you know, a lot of people say, I got the flu vaccine and it gave me the flu. Well, if you get symptoms like this, you might think you have the flu, but there's no way you have the flu because you're not given the flu virus, and same with this. So it's just some reactions. It's the price to pay for your body kind of seeing this foreign protein and trying to make immunity and get rid of it. So it's kind of an inflammatory response, and it makes you feel a little sick. So that's the downside, and this is what is driving us, and that is that both vaccines reduced the risk of getting ill with COVID by 95%. So if 100% of the placebos had been, so let's say 100% of placebos got sick. In the vaccines, only 5% of people who got vaccines would get sick. So it prevents illness in almost everybody. And that's similar in all the age groups, in men and women, and in all the race and ethnicity groups. And it's very important to us that we test the vaccine in a diverse population because we want to know that everybody's protected. And if there are differences that we can't anticipate, this is what tells us that the vaccine is broadly effective and highly effective. It was also highly effective against severe disease. So for example, Moderna was 100% and Pfizer was about 95%. So do we know everything that we need to know about these vaccines? No, we don't. And we can't help that because we just learned about COVID. COVID emerged a year ago, and we only started testing vaccines in the late spring, and we did the phase 3 trials starting in about June or July. So we haven't had enough time to know everything. So we don't know whether the safety and protection lasts more than 3 to 4 months after the second dose, because we haven't had a chance to be able to see that. But we do know that most of the time when you have reactions from vaccines, they occur quickly. So that gives us a lot of assurance that the vaccine, that the problems we've seen are the problems that are likely to occur. But there could be very rare events that happen that 30,000 people weren't enough to tell us about. We don't know if the vaccine prevents asymptomatic infection. And so what we don't know is that even though you don't get sick, could you still have the virus in your nose and mouth and pass it to others? We don't know that. We know it protects individuals. We don't know yet if it protects spread in a community. So we need to get everybody vaccinated to protect everybody individually or close to it. The studies in children and pregnant women and people with weak immunity haven't started, but they will. And we hope that that we can get a more stable vaccine so it doesn't require so much cold for storage. And the reason is, it's kind of good news and bad news. The messenger RNA gets degraded very quickly in our body and outside of our body. And that's why it's in the lipid envelope. And that's why when it's outside of our body, it's in the cold. So that means that it can't get incorporated into your genes and it doesn't hang around for a long time, but it means that we still have to treat it very carefully until the companies have had a chance to work on getting more stable vaccine. The other thing that we all need to work on, what this shows, is that about half of the country in all kinds of different groups are worried about getting the vaccine. And they say that maybe they are not very likely or absolutely won't get the vaccine. That number is decreasing, absolutely. But it's important to us that we build trust so that people feel comfortable getting these vaccines and will protect themselves. So what's next? Well, we need to know for the studies that are going on now, how well those vaccines work. So we get a lot of kicks on the goal. We need vaccine confidence and communication so people understand what the vaccine's about. You heard how truth sometimes isn't the winner in a fight with rumors. And so we try to get the scientific information out there. We need to learn about long-term safety and pregnant women. If you are interested in participating in a study, at University of Maryland, we're testing the Novavax vaccine that just started last week. And that's just the protein itself, the spike protein. So I'm happy to take questions now. Thanks.
Okay. All right. That was an excellent presentation right there. Very simplistic and straight to the point, and I appreciate that. So I know for me, my first question is this. So we're actually streaming to the Black community. And the question in the Black community is, why should we trust Europeans with any type of medicine? Given the history that we've been through, it's a very complicated situation, to say the least. So my question to you is, how can we trust that y'all just not trying to injure us or hurt us or do any harm to us based off of the history? Can you answer that, please?
I can try to answer that. So these vaccines came out in a period of our lives where there was social and political instability, and there was confusion sometimes between truth and not truth. And I think it's really understandable. You know, politics and health got mixed up, which usually those two should stay far apart. And so I think it's very understandable that there are a lot of questions about trust. And, you know, I guess I see it's a two-way street. The people who are giving the message need to be trustworthy, and the people who are accepting the message need to understand when they feel comfortable to trust. And you can take that history into consideration, and you can also look at what's happening here and now. I can show you, I think I still have my Band-Aid. I just got my vaccine tonight. There's my Band-Aid. So
Okay.
if that, I don't know if you can see it, the lights are bright in my
I was going to ask that question. You take it.
I took it as soon as I could take it. I got my first dose of the Moderna vaccine tonight. Doesn't hurt yet. And so I think that you can watch, you know, it's the government has prioritized because there's not enough vaccine to vaccinate everybody. So they say, okay, we think older people because they're most at risk of dying, and healthcare workers because they gotta be available to treat everybody who gets sick. They're number one. And so they are rushing in large numbers to get vaccinated. And you can watch that and see what people do who are very close to the field and, you know, think about it and read about it and teach themselves about it. That's their job. So you can watch that. You can look at people you trust in the community. There are people who have participated in studies and stood up and said, I did it, you know, to protect myself. I did it hoping that it will provide a vaccine that protects people that I love. And you can listen to what people say, and you're the best judge of whether you feel like you can trust what they're saying. And that's kind of the best you can do, I think.
Okay.
Well, I appreciate that answer. Around here in these parts, we understand that there is no European science. It's just science, and that's the way we get the truth. Where you at, Truth? You got a question for the doctor?
I had one real quick.
Hey, Corey, let me ask mine first.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah, because I wanted question to be more clear, because of our audience. All right, what he want a answer to, and it might sound ridiculous, right? But when we are arguing with our people, we're arguing against a sentiment that the medical community has been partial in their treatment towards African Americans. The main thing that comes up is the Tuskegee experiment, and things like medical book was written, Medical Apartheid, and a lot of people got their hands on that, and they heard about the Tuskegee experiment, and they feel like that are they experimenting on us, like things like that. So we can't answer that. We look at it like, yo, we're going to trust our doctors. But so we're looking at it like, if we can get somebody from the other community that's a professional, maybe it'll feel better if they answer it for you. You know what I mean? So that's the question that he was asking.
So, Chef, if I understand what you're asking, I think that, I mean, one reaction that I have is, don't punish yourself for the sins of others. So these things happened, and they are horrible things. And the world has changed, not to the extent that we want it to, but there are many, many safeguards in place so that something like Tuskegee could never happen again. You know, we have ethics committees that review every single thing we say and do to a participant in a study.
Good point.
And there are guidelines and training and oversight. And so there's a lot in place that can prevent that from happening again. And because there were people who did that, you know, the idea to me that would keep you from getting a vaccine that could help you would be, you know, it tragic, you know, assuming that you believe that these vaccines work very, very well, better than anybody ever expected, that there's never an absolute 100% guarantee that anything you do is completely risk-free, but that your risk is the same as everybody else's risk. And that's why we all were in these trials together. You know, there are minorities, there are, I mean, 40% of the participants in our trial were healthcare workers. So we're all in this together, and we're trying to fight our way out of it using vaccines. And you have to decide if you believe that.
Thank you.
who was going next? Truth or Corey?
Yeah, I can. Matter of fact, now I'll go ahead and ask my question real quick. I have a number of questions, so, but I'm gonna just ask this one real quick because this is another thing that's going around the community. Are there any type of herbs or some type of natural remedy that we can take instead of the vaccine that will either prevent us from getting the virus, or if we have the virus, actually cure it?
There's nothing, there have been almost no studies to look at that. But there has not been any natural remedy that I'm aware of that would be effective in either preventing it or treating it.
Okay.
Good question, Truth.
Concrete Corey.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about so I've been noticing that it's been a lot of vaccine hesitancy in the in the professional field, like the medical community. I see even like nurses and stuff. And I just wanted to know, like, first of all, have you noticed that? And second of all, like, where does that come from? I mean, I don't understand. That's something that I just really can't grasp myself, you know. If you can kind of, maybe you don't have an answer for that, but if you can kind of elaborate on that for me.
It's true. And I've been asked to speak, like, in doctors' practices where they're worried because a lot of their staff is nervous. And I think that, they're people. I mean, I'm a pediatrician actually. So I know that I can't go toe to toe with somebody's grandma, because grandma is always going to be right and grandma is always going to have her way. And the doctors and nurses have grandmas too. And so, they're hearing that voice at the same time that they're, figuring out who they can trust and who they can't trust. And I just think that they need to hear the same messages and make the decision for themselves. They should be reading. They should find people who they trust, who are scientists, who can advise them and make the decisions.
It's a good point right there. Excellent point.
Thank you.
Where you at, Ken?
Yeah, I was going to ask. So it kind of goes along with the herbs thing, and people trying to boost their immunity. You have some people that say they want to catch the virus naturally and let their immune system fight it instead of getting the vaccine and letting the vaccine fight it, because they feel like their immune system, that's what it's there for, is to get those antibodies built up. What do you say to that, as far as catching the virus naturally or getting the vaccine and having your body already prepared for it?
So the difference is that the vaccine gives you a piece of the virus that can't give you COVID. If you let yourself get the natural infection, you're taking the risk that, it could make you really, really sick, or it could kill you. And for me, that's an easy choice. I would much rather get a little bit of spike protein and have a sore arm and maybe even get a fever for a day or two than risk getting COVID. And, we see young, healthy people who die from this. It's unusual, but it's a risk. And, you just don't know how well you're going to be able to fight this off. And even, colleagues of mine who have gotten infected, it is not a fun infection. One of my friends said to me, it feels like an elephant is sitting on your chest and you can't breathe. It's a terrible feeling. So you can take that choice and weigh the risks and, see which way you want to go.
Okay. All right. Where you at, CK? Mr. Turn.
Oh, he's blinking.
I miss a turn.
Yeah, because
Anyways,
flowing.
peace to the panelists, peace to the chat.
Jesus.
Sorry, I'm like super duper late.
But
But
glad you could come.
oh yeah, thank you. We appreciate you coming through, Doctor. We do have a decent amount of questions from the chat. Did anybody else that's on the panel still have some more questions before we got to the
We
chat?
still got Sean and Malcolm.
Okay, I'll wait. I'd rather do their questions because y'all. I know y'all will cover what we need to ask.
Okay, where you at, Sean? Malcolm.
Hey, what's going on, good people?
How you going? How you doing, brother? PseudoKillas official. What's up?
Man, not too bad. I could be a little bit better, so I do want to make a comment before I ask a question. The comment is, if you can't hear it in my voice, I currently have COVID-19. I am doing fine. I did, again, I do have COVID-19. Currently doing fine. Just got a little cough. And I want to make that known to the audience who's asking about food sources and things of that nature. So I'm a vegetarian. I don't eat any meat. I do eat a few animal sources. I got all the herbs you could think of in the cabinet. But I do believe in medicine too. And so none of that saved me from catching the virus. So now let's get to it. My question to the doctor, and I'm glad you're here on the panel, is many people in our community have been asking the question, well, HIV has been out for X amount of years. Why is it they were able to come up with a vaccine for COVID-19 and not a vaccine for HIV?
So that's a really good question. And the answer is really that the coronavirus made vaccines easy to make because it just has that, it's like a peacock. It's got that spike protein on its surface. And if you put that out of commission by making antibodies, it can't make you sick. And what HIV does is it gets inside your cells, and it kills the cells that you need to make immunity. So it's amazing how these viruses evolve to outsmart humans, but HIV is the master of that because it's very difficult to be able to get to the virus to make vaccines because it's hidden in your immune cells. And then also it changes frequently. So like flu virus changes frequently, and we need to have a new vaccine every year to keep up with that, which is really a pain to do. But HIV does that changing at the same time that it's hiding, and it just has outsmarted people. We've been able to do much better with treatment and almost use treatment as a vaccine, because if you get people's viral load down, it can protect those infected people from transmitting it to their partners. And then the other side of it is if you give people who aren't infected medicine, it can prevent their infected partners from infecting them. So we're almost using the treatments like a vaccine because we just haven't been smart enough to make the right vaccine for HIV. So I don't know if that answered your question, but
it's a good answer. It's a good answer.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thanks, Malcolm.
Where you at, Chef? You said you got Sean's question, and then we're gonna let CK.
Oh yeah, Sean was asking. All right, Sean asked, "Will the MR?" This is not his question because Sean ain't this crazy, but this is some of the stuff that people in the community be lobbing at us. Like they be having us on our back foot all the time because they ask questions that, you know what I mean? But here you go. He say, will mRNA vaccines alter one's DNA and potentially cause a genetic reaction in the future?
That's a really good question. So the answer to that is that our genes are inside of like a bubble in our cells called the nucleus, and mRNA doesn't do its thing inside the nucleus. It never gets into where our genes are. So our genes, send the code to the messenger RNA, and then the messenger RNA makes the protein outside of the nucleus, and then it's so fragile that our enzymes chew it up and it doesn't hang out very long. So it doesn't get to where our genes are, and it doesn't hang around for a long time, and it just doesn't have the ability to get into our genes and to change us in any way.
See, only a person that actually in the field could give you that sharp answer like that.
Right.
That was a sharp answer right there. Okay, so CK, go ahead and get some of those.
Hey, I got one more question though, please.
Oh yeah, go ahead, do your thing.
I just wanted, because we got another like thing that I've been seeing in the community too, that's been kind of getting passed around, not as much, but it's gaining some steam. The population control. I think people have a misunderstanding of what population control is. And seeing as you do work over in Africa and stuff, maybe you could elaborate on us, like what population is and what the purpose is all about. I mean, population control. Sorry.
If
Go
I
ahead.
get what you're saying, a lot of when we start testing vaccines in Africa, one of the early rumors that will go around is that it's going to make people sterile, that's what they're afraid of a vaccine would do. And that's what they think the intent of researchers is. And you know, and that's a fact. And but with this COVID vaccine, it doesn't touch your reproductive organs in any way. And so there's really no evidence that the actual infection or the vaccine has any effect on your reproductive organs. And there's no reason to think that it would. It's just this spike protein that you know, attracts your immune cells, and you make antibodies and cell immunity, and it doesn't touch your reproductive tract. So,
yeah, be.
I had one more too.
Go ahead, Ken.
Oh, okay. And I believe you answered this during your presentation. But just to be clear, how long do the antibodies last once you get the vaccine?
Well, that's a really good question, and we don't even know the answer to that yet, because we don't have people who were vaccinated for that long. And
Gotcha.
so we are following that along, and we know that antibodies last a couple months, but we don't know yet whether you can get long-term immunity, whether you would need a booster every year. All that is still
Right.
a big question mark. We don't know that. We know that people after COVID seem to be protected for at least 3 months, but we also don't know how long after you've had a natural infection that you're protected. And just in case, people who have had COVID, it's still recommended that they get vaccinated. So you get this boost and it keeps them protected for a longer period.
Okay, so it may become a thing where they might have to get one like maybe once a year, like the flu shot, something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we really, you know, how this thing is ultimately going to play out, there's a lot we don't know.
Right.
And it's a battle between us and the virus. And you know, I think that there's strong opinion that if we can get a lot of people vaccinated, it's like building a fence around us when you say population. So if there's nobody susceptible that you can pass it on to, it's hoped that the virus will die out. And that's the way, you know, you hear about, like, there were lots of outbreaks of measles when vaccination rates went down. So there was a big move by the government to vaccinate broadly all over the world with measles, and we hardly ever see measles anymore. And the same thing when the anti-vaxxers stopped vaccinating their kids, whooping cough came back because it was kind of at a low level, and then there were all these susceptible people, and were people that that's a bacteria could infect. So when we all kind of join arms and get vaccinated, we can keep these infections out of our community, and that's what people call herd immunity. And if it's long-lasting immunity, then we can eradicate, get rid of an infection.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's a great point. And so it's a level of not being selfish. That is the way we're gonna have to fight this thing. Yeah, selfishness will get you in trouble around here. Yeah, CK, go ahead and go to the audience, and let's get some of their beautiful questions. See if they can stump the doctor. Let's see.
Copy. Before we get to the questions, I just want to make it known to everyone in the audience. If you haven't by now, please make sure you take some time out your day to check out Brother Uncle Ket's store everywhere, and also, join the PseudoKillas Discord server. I'm actually going to make a separate channel with the Dr. Kotloff's name, and it's going to have all of her prestigious work that she's worked on in there, including this video tonight. All of it'll be in there. So if y'all join that server tonight, I'm gonna set that channel up tonight. That'll have all of the articles that she's participating in, her website that goes into her credentials for those people that may want to read it later on, and also the video tonight with us having her on the panel. And I just threw that link in the chat just now for the PseudoKillas Discord server. Anyone that joins it can send an invite to anyone. So if you missed that link, anyone that's already in there can invite you. So with that being said, we're going to move on to, I'm going to start with the questions that Sean put in the back first. Me and Julanda's been trying to get everyone's questions as we go. Some of these I kind of want to put together because we got some of the same questions.
Yeah, I think we kind of answered some of the ones that Sean's had.
You think I should skip those?
No.
Maybe go to this one. This is probably an easy one, an easy yes or no one. Dr. Kotloff, one of the questions that Sean put in the Zoom back chat was, can a gynecologist make an informed decision about vaccines versus a virologist?
You mean in terms of recommending whether people should get it or not?
Hey, take it however you want to take it. I guess the same, they could go for gynecologists, chiropractors, herbalists, all of those kind of people. Can they tell their patients, can they have them or help them make informed decisions about vaccine versus a virologist, helping them make an informed decision?
So, I think that you learn in your life who you can trust, what they tell you pans out as the truth. So, you're not going to make this decision by going to, Fauci every time. You're going to have to talk to your families. You're going to have to talk to people who you trust and make judgments whether they seem to be informed enough, that they're reading, that what they're saying makes sense, they seem like they know what they're talking about. So I would say that, my bias is that maybe a medical doctor would know the most because that's what their training is, whereas a chiropractor is more involved in moving your body in ways that make you feel better, which is a little bit different than learning about virology and medicines and things like that. So, if I were to choose, I would probably pick my medical doctor over my chiropractor. But, you talk to who you trust and talk to different people, get different opinions, and try to sort things out and read, listen to the news. That's all. There are also good ways to get scientific information. It's tough though. I gotta say, the internet is full of rumors and it's full of truth, and the community is the same way. And it's really hard to get good information. So the guys like this, I would go to, the guys who are running, and women who are running this webinar, because they're people who like to read and find scientific sources and talk to people and think about it. So you find people like that to listen to.
Yeah, we up for the challenge too, Doc. All day, every day.
It's a
We
war
make sure
around
that people
here.
get the correct information. Mm-hmm.
Well, you're
We in a
courageous.
war, Doc. It's hard. But I think the pandemic then brought out all kind of fears. in the African American community, seeing the numbers spike in our community. I'm gonna say this: when the pandemic first, when we first started getting wind of it, I'm in Baltimore now. It was something started on Instagram saying that the black community, we didn't get COVID. It was something that only white people was getting. So at first we wasn't wearing masks, we wasn't wearing gloves, because it was a rumor, right, that we wasn't catching it. So it was a video of a white police officer. He had walked through a low-rise project complex on east side of Baltimore, and there was a crowd of people around, and he started coughing in the crowd to disperse the crowd, because everybody knew about COVID by then. So he walked through the crowd and he started coughing in the crowd to get people to move. And there was a young lady said, well, she was using profanity, but she told him, "We not worried about that. That's something that only white people get," right? But it just shows how much misinformation. So things like that put our community behind in the first couple months, right? We wasn't even taking the necessary precautions the first couple months because of so much misinformation. It wasn't until we start seeing the news with refrigerator trucks and stuff in New York City that we finally started to say, okay, well, maybe we need to take this serious. But the misinformation, like Corey said from the beginning, how you said, Corey, a lie travels around the world twice before the truth get a chance to get out the bed and put his pants on. And that's what our community, like, we're behind and we're playing catch up, right? In the middle of a pandemic, and it's not good for us. That's why I feel as though our numbers spike more than a lot of other communities, is because of the misinformation. Can you speak to that?
Yep. Yep. That makes a lot of sense.
But remember what I had told y'all earlier this year when it first came up about that rumor that was starting in the Black community. It made sense at the time, because back in like February and March, the majority of the people that were getting sick were usually Caucasian people, most of them, yes, male, and it was people that was traveling. Most Black people, they live in the hood, they don't make a whole lot of money, and even if they do, they most likely don't have a passport. So it took a long time. It took a good few months before it started to crop up in the Black community, and then people had to start reversing it. They couldn't keep saying that, Black people couldn't get it anymore.
You watched and you saw what happened, and you took that information in and made informed decisions. And so that's how you figured it out. I mean, so it's kind of the same thing. I mean, I watch politicians having, New Year's parties with 500 people. Well, they're going to get COVID. There's going to be an outbreak there, and you kind of like see parties like that. And then, 2 weeks later, half the people are sick. You start putting together your own facts as well.
Gotcha.
Well, let me
I was gonna say,
okay, real fast, CK. So
okay, gotcha.
most Black people don't live in the hood, though. I would like to say that. And misinformation permeates through all communities. We just have a higher level of it in the Black community, period, just based off of access to certain materials. Like most people aren't subscribed to the journal, the New England Journal of Medicine or the Journal of Science, just based off of price alone. People are not putting in that type of effort. And what I would like to say is, we got Mike, right? Now, Mike, he wants to ask one of those trick questions. I call it a trick question, but I'm gonna ask this question. I'm gonna let you go. His question to you, Doc, is this. He said, how can we trust companies like Pritchard when they have paid out more than $4 billion in violations?
This is Pfizer?
Pfizer, yes, Pfizer.
Yes. So, I have some distrust of big companies. I think, people who have to gain financially it makes you trust them a little bit less. And there are big companies that are making money from this, but they're being overseen by good people. I mean, I think, the FDA is a very effective oversight organization that makes sure that vaccines are manufactured to very, very high standards. And I watch this being involved in the trials. Whenever they have a doubt, they'll stop the trial. They won't let it start until the manufacturing is perfect from, soup to nuts. And so there's a lot of oversight, and the companies have nothing to gain for putting out a bad product. They have everything to gain for putting out a good product. And I'm sure that there are good people in these companies, but I don't think that we can deny that a lot of people will also benefit financially, and that's capitalism, I guess. That's what we have to put up with, and just hope that the structure is in place to keep everybody honest. And I believe that in this case it is.
They make more money off the opioids than they do the vaccines. Vaccines are just popular now based off of the pandemic. So vaccine business is not a good business to invest money in anyway. And I know you know that because you've been dealing with that area for a while, trying to get funding to Africa. So that's not like people think. So, I just found that to be very interesting. Brother Vance, where you at, man? You haven't asked a question yet, man. Where you at?
It's a very, very good point. I just want to point that out because you get a vaccine once for the most part. Where companies make most of their money is drugs that you take your whole life because you have high blood pressure or something, so they keep selling it and selling it and selling it to lots of people. And so it's been hard to keep companies in the vaccine business. And so that's a very good point.
Yeah, my fault. I almost talked over you. You're the professional here. I got to let you go on that. My fault. I apologize for that. Do you want to expound on that even more?
Nope, that's good. You really said it.
Okay, I wasn't trying to though. Goodness gracious. Vance, where you at?
I'm right here. I don't forgot my question. It's been about 10 questions since I had it lined up. I swear I did. But since I don't have a question, I would just say I appreciate you coming on and answering these questions because we don't get to do this often. It's mainly just the people on the panel battling for vaccines, and it's good to hear a fresh voice, but that's all.
Well, thank you, Vance. And I'm happy, to come back, or I have other people, good people who I work with who can come. So feel free to reach out.
Send them all our way. Send them all
our way.
Right.
Let them know it's a comfortable platform. How much time you got? I know we're running out of time, Doc. I don't want to pressure.
That's okay. I'm good.
Okay, you good. Okay, so
I wanted to double check before I asked this question. I don't know if it was already asked. The one about the mRNA vaccines altering our DNA.
Yeah,
was that one already asked?
Yeah, she killed them. She killed them with it. She
what about
spike proteins?
Yeah, because I was multitasking to the max. So I don't know if I misheard it. What about the one about the nurses? Well, no, Corey asked that. Never mind.
Yep.
Did Dr. Kotloff get a chance to show her vaccine card if she got one, considering?
My vaccine what? Oh, my vaccine card.
Yeah.
I don't know why they don't.
Some of the audience might enjoy seeing it.
Let me go get it.
Prove it. You say prove she got the vaccine.
Oh wow, that's
we really appreciate that.
Hold up now. Those are Sean's questions. None of these questions are mine.
No,
I Band-Aid, but I don't think it showed up very well.
Hey, we got a saying around here, Doc. It's called source up or shut up. Not saying that we were telling you to shut up, but they're not gonna believe you, not unless you.
Facts.
All right.
There, can you see it?
Yep.
Okay.
Oh.
Hey, but y'all gotta stop talking. Go ahead, Doc. Do it again and talk. That way your screen will come up. Go ahead.
Okay, here you go. There's my vaccine card. And here's my appointment for my second dose. It's on February 2nd. Can you see it?
Yeah, we can see it. There you go. You won. It's over. It's official. It's official.
You get your second dose on my daughter's birthday, on my youngest daughter's birthday. Doc.
And I'm prepared that I might not feel so well after that second dose, but that's okay.
Okay. All right.
Now,
Well, we see you're not dead, so we definitely not talking to a ghost or a spirit, so it didn't kill you. So
And her face
That's
not
right.
twisted. She don't look like the Joker.
My wife got my wife got her COVID shot the day before Christmas.
Oh, wow. That's a
She
nice
got
Christmas
she got the
present.
Pfizer. She got the Pfizer shot.
let's talk about the Bell palsy. So we got people cracking.
We have to say that, man. We need to get everybody's question, and people gonna feel like we're avoiding them.
Yeah.
Oh man, they're gonna say something.
Because you
Go
got to
ahead.
realize Juju was taking questions before I got on the panel. So
Yeah,
it's
but you keep
those the
putting
ones
Sean questions. Get it from the panel, Sean.
I already got the ones from that Sean had put in the back chat. I'm getting the ones that Juju
All right,
took.
go ahead, sis. Go ahead.
These are the ones from the chat, mind you. All right, hold on. Make sure I'm in the right spot. Okay. Thanks, Juju, for putting people's names on some of these, because I ain't gonna lie, y'all, I was typing so quick I didn't get y'all names for some of them. This one's from Wisdom Seeker University. She wants to know, does the vaccines that we have, I don't know if she's asking specifically for COVID vaccines or just vaccines in general. She wants to know, do they cause sterilization? I'm assuming preventing men or women from reproducing, basically.
There is no vaccine that I have ever heard of that causes people to be sterile. It just doesn't affect that part of your body. It's these vaccines target your immune cells, and they don't attack your reproductive body parts.
Gotcha. Here's the next one. This one's from Brother Truth Ministries. Oh, no. Different truth. I'm gonna come back to that one. This one, how many people will die from the vaccine for COVID versus people dying from COVID, the disease? Basically, they want to kind of like outweigh like what's worse, like, or more people are going to die from taking the vaccine, or more people going to die from the actual COVID-19.
So there's no comparison. We know the millions and millions of people who have died from COVID, and no one has died from a COVID vaccine. And we don't have any reason to think that anybody will die from the COVID vaccine.
Gotcha.
Maybe the most concerning reaction that I forgot to mention is that people are having allergic reactions, some people. So you can have an allergic reaction to any medicine, any food. The rate of allergic reactions to the COVID, to any vaccine is about 1 in a million doses. There have been a handful of allergic reactions. And so is it higher than normal vaccines? It's hard to say yet. But what happens, and what they did with me, is that they watch you for 15 to 30 minutes after you get your vaccine, and they're there to treat you if you have an allergic reaction. So that's taken care of. And, it's not something that we really need to worry about.
Gotcha. That question was from Brother Ogun. I lost my spot.
CK, I got a burning desire. You know the one we hear all the time? Watch this, Doc. Here's the great question. Well, since 99% of the people, get well, when they catch the coronavirus, then why are we worried about it? Why is that, Doc? So why should we worry about something that 99% of the people recover from? Why should we worry about that?
So I think I showed you in my first slide that there have been 80 million cases, and 1% turns into 1.7 million deaths. To me, that's 1.7 million too many deaths. So even though most people don't die, it's so contagious that a lot of people still die.
Great
Does that
point.
make sense?
Great point. And it's still dying from other things, correct? and they still dying from other things. So that's another another million something extra deaths on top of people already dying. Okay.
Right.
And I just want to
She
point
said
out
1.7 million deaths. If we could think, if we're talking about people, y'all, like, I mean, take the number out of it, and you're talking about a million, close to 2 million people dead.
and I just want to
It's
add,
crazy.
Sheffrin, that our grandparents are the most vulnerable
Right.
people. So, you know, I just want to add that they will be the majority of that 1.7 million people.
And the people in our families who have how you say it,
Underlying
pre-existing
medical
conditions,
problems.
right?
Yeah.
Like diabetes. We had my family is riddled with diabetes. So yeah, we have to take it serious. That's a great point.
All
You know,
right, so we're gonna keep it
I
moving.
mean, it's 20%. You know, the older you get, it's not 1% anymore who
It goes
die.
up to 20.
Oh
Yeah.
man.
I think you already asked this question, but the way that it's framed, I'm gonna ask it anyways, and I'm gonna piggyback off of it too. This one's from Richard Wright. He wants to know if COVID-19's genetic code is in the vaccine synthetic. But to my understanding, I was under the impression that they were using something in the vaccine that was shaped like the virus to help our body recognize the virus to make the proteins to the antibodies, to fight against it.
Yeah, so in the messenger RNA vaccine, they take the genetic code of the virus and they use that to make the code for the spike protein. So that's not even the genetic code for the virus, that's the recipe for the spike protein. And so that's what the messenger RNA is. In the ones that I said were made, like AstraZeneca and Janssen, they're made from a cold virus that can't cause infection. It can't reproduce itself. There's a little bit of genetic code for the spike protein is put into the virus. And then the virus makes the spike protein and then it can't reproduce itself and it just dies off because viruses can't live forever. So, you know, even though, I mean, it's a little bit scary to think that this is somehow related to genetics, but it's not related in a way that it can leave genetic code or alter our genes.
Right. While we on the subject, because that's another part of the question. What about nanoparticles? Can you break that down to us? Because there's a lot of people that really think it's robots.
I don't think people know what it is or understand the definition of what it is.
Yeah, that's
what it was one of the questions that was in the list, so I don't see why we can't go through it.
Say that again, I didn't hear it. I didn't hear it, what you said.
The nanoparticles?
Oh, the nanoparticles. So what are the nanoparticles? The nanoparticles, so for example, the protein vaccines, they put a little bit of detergent in and then the spike proteins stick to it and they make like a fake virus. And it just alerts your immune system more. So it's really just a microscopic particle, and scientists have learned how to kind of deliver the vaccine in these particles that really wakes up your immune system. And it has to do with putting them in these little lipid envelopes and putting some detergent in so that they form these little particles. They it's like when something's electrical, it sticks together. It just, comes off of this little bit of detergent. It's easier if you see pictures of it. So it just makes these little formations that tickle your immune system more. And I don't know if that makes sense, but
yeah. So it's not a computer chip,
right?
It ain't a computer chip.
Yeah, people asking about the chips because the conspiracy theories, they finna put the chips in the vaccines. They finna chip us up. They finna track us down. Mark of the beast, all that craziness.
I mean, you know, when you're asking me questions and I just say no, you have to trust me. But the answer to that is just a huge no. No computer chips. I mean, probably your cell phones. People are tracking you all over the place. That's where I would worry about it. I
Thank
wouldn't
you.
You
worry about
paying
it.
for it. You paying for that every month. You paying for the government to track you with your cell phone. But that's a whole nother.
You said that too.
Oh man.
All right, go ahead, CK.
Gotcha.
Interrupting you too.
I'm not gonna lie, I definitely lost my spot, but I'll figure it out. I said I was gonna come back. I'm iffy about asking that one question, Drew.
About what? Iffy about what?
Because I don't think any of us have read anything on it.
Any of us or the doctor?
Well, it's most likely a conspiracy theory, and I don't like the way the question is framed. I'm gonna come back to it. That's gonna probably be the last one I ask. Okay, this is a good one. Do placebos that are, I guess they're talking about in like trials, maybe, do placebos cause harm or death? I think that's referring to like when they have like the trials and whatnot, and they're having a placebo and then the vaccine. And I guess they want to know, do any of the placebos cause death in those
So
circumstances?
most of the placebos are just salt water, just a little bit of salt water, you know, like half, it's half a milliliter. If you know what a milliliter is, there's 3 milliliters in a teaspoon. So it's a tiny bit of a teaspoon. And it's salt water and it just doesn't do anything. Your body doesn't even, you know, pay any attention to that. In the AstraZeneca trial, they actually gave people, it's not a placebo, they gave them a vaccine to prevent meningitis. So you got a benefit if you got the the COVID vaccine or the meningitis vaccine, which is a licensed vaccine, and it's given, you know, all over the world. So that's what they did. But there's nothing harmful at all about vaccines, and the placebo, and sometimes it can even benefit you.
Gotcha. I'm assuming that you already went over the differences between the 3 main kind of vaccines that we all know about: Pfizer, Moderna,
Yeah, she did
Johnson
a
and Johnson,
presentation.
AstraZeneca.
Yeah, she
She
did
already
a
went over that.
presentation. Did
I
you?
did. I'm happy if
I
somebody's not
missed like
clear.
20 minutes, Unc.
Yeah,
I was
you
driving.
did a presentation. You missed it.
I ain't gonna lie, I was listening to another podcast.
Oh, you know what, CK? Let me listen. Let's do this. So I think what's important here is that we recognize that we're not going to get harmed when we take the vaccine, and it's more harm to catch the pathogen than get the vaccine. So we can be assured of that. Am I right, Doc?
Yes, yes. And you can be assured, you know, those conspiracy theories, it's like it can just make you crazy and afraid. And you just gotta, you know, put a lid on that and look and see that there are a lot of people who want this vaccine, of all races and ethnicities and neighborhoods and jobs, you know, and so I think you just gotta keep grounding yourself and you know, understand that we have a horrible thing that is a once in a lifetime event, and what people want to do is stop it and protect the population of the world.
That's a fact. So I think you covered everything in your presentation, and I
Okay.
appreciate how simple that presentation was. It was straight to the point.
Okay. You want me to move on to the next questions? Only like 4
No,
more left.
you can't hear me, CK, talking.
No, I'm just saying I only got 4 more questions left if you want me to keep going.
Yeah, hold on one second. Anybody else want to ask something else? Because we up against the clock. Truth, Corey, Chef, Vance.
No,
The doctor did pretty well. I mean, answering all my questions that I had, and even questions that I didn't think of. So I really appreciate the doctor for coming through and being as informative as she has.
Right. I'm glad she was able to repeat a lot of the things we've been saying for the last couple months. So, our community and our listeners can see that, we ain't just making this stuff up to disagree with y'all. We actually, are listening to the professionals and trying to give y'all the best information to protect yourselves and y'all family. So I'm glad the doctor was able to be in the echo chamber with us tonight and reiterate the things that we've been going over. We appreciate that.
So we
All right,
kind of
I'm
got
gonna.
the long term. So we went with the speed of the vaccine. I know she talked about the speed of the vaccine didn't mess up the safety of it. And we talk about the long-term effects, and people keep saying, well, long-term effects. We don't know about the long-term effects. That's like a question that goes on forever. We don't know about the long-term effects. What do you say to that?
Well, I think it was you who asked about Bell's palsy. So I want to just give a perspective that before COVID or COVID vaccines were on Earth, Bell's palsy occurs in our population. We all know people who have had it. And it occurs it's somewhere between 15 and 50 people out of every 100,000. And so you expect if you've vaccinated 30,000 people, you're going to see 5 to 6 cases of Bell's palsy in that group of 30,000 people, even if they didn't get vaccine. So when you're giving large numbers of people vaccines, the things that occur, they're going to be people who get cancer, who have heart attacks, who have strokes, who get hypertension. All the things that happen to us are going to happen at the same rate in people who got vaccine. And so it's important to know that in the US, there are a lot of systems in place to be where all kinds of reactions are being reported. And people are comparing those who got vaccine and those who didn't, and looking very carefully to see if there are any conditions that occur more commonly in people who got vaccine. And those systems are in place, and they will be in place for a long period of time. So even though most vaccine reactions occur soon after the vaccine in the first few weeks, people will continue to look for these. We don't have long-term information yet because we've only been vaccinating people for a couple months. And so, there's nothing to tell us that there are long-term reactions, but we're going to keep looking to make sure they don't occur. You should also remember that the vaccine itself only stays in your body for days, and then it's gone, and it doesn't get incorporated into your genes, and it doesn't hang out. So it's not going to continue to affect you in any way. It just wakes up your immune system. Your immune system makes antibodies and other immunity. And then if you see the COVID virus, it fights it off. There is, however, there's a whole, they call them, I think, long-termers. There's a whole group of people who had COVID who are having long-term symptoms, and there are clinics. People are trying to figure out what that's all about. So the infection itself can cause long-term effects, but we haven't seen anything yet with the vaccine, if we ever will.
Okay, so you know what, Doc, I appreciate that. We don't want to hog up your time because I know you say you will come back through and get some of your colleagues to come back through. Let them know this is a safe space for science around here. We're science advocates, the PseudoKillas, dedicated to finishing off the pseudos and the misinformation in the Black community. For any community, to be honest with you, any community that's willing to learn about science, we're science advocates. We really appreciate you coming through. Any last closing words you want to say, Doc?
I mean, you guys are my heroes. You guys are just doing an incredible job for the community. And I thank you for what you do. I really appreciate it. It's wonderful.
Okay, well, make sure your colleagues know that, because we need the professionals. We can only read with so many journals. You know what I'm saying? We can only, but to have that voice here, right? A couple books, Daily is Enemy, Michael Osterholm. All
He's a
right, good
great guy.
read. You familiar with his work?
I am. He's a great guy, and Peter Hotez is a great guy. Absolutely.
So you know, we actually had a vaccine debate in Harlem. This was before the pandemic came. And I just had an inkling to educate the community on vaccines. So the teams got up, we formulated our arguments, and we debated the anti-vax community. This is before the pandemic came through. So it made me feel like, made us look like a superstar, because we was ahead of that curve. But look, we appreciate you coming through. We're gonna, hey Chef, you gotta stop the show because we done, and you know we'll do an after show. That's not what you though, Doc. We're gonna let you get back to what you do, but make sure you go back and tell your colleagues this is the spot to be, right? For those who
Tell them. Absolutely.
absolutely.
Appreciate you, Doc.
Appreciate you.
Thank you, Dr.
Doc, we
Kotloff.
really appreciate you. Don't be a stranger, Doc. You know, definitely reach out, and we'll have you on the panel anytime. If you get any new information or new research that you hear about, some cutting edge information or anything like that, please let us know, because we like to keep the community informed and updated.
I will. Thank you so much. And if anybody wants to participate in the Novavax study, get in touch with me, and I can, you know, put your name into.
You want to put that back up there again? That was a good one. Do you want to put that back up again?
Yeah. Can I share my screen?
It's important for us to participate in these, because you know the Black community don't want to do that. I'm not participating in that.
I'm not being a guinea pig.
I ain't gonna be. No, sir. That's funny.
Isn't that crazy how we don't want to participate in the studies to help them figure out how to best address our community, but then turn around and complain when the stuff don't work for us.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man.
So this got messed up, but this is it's www.cvdtrials.org is the website. And then there's a text number and there's a phone number. The phone number is 410-706-7926.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want me to send you my slides or whatever, I'm happy to do that.
Yes,
yeah,
we would love them slides.
I need them slides. Them slides is big. Oh man, I need them slides right there.
Okay, I will send them right off to you right after this.
Okay, appreciate
Thank you, Doc.
Make sure y'all give it an email address that y'all want her to send it to.
Yeah, I'll send it to you. We'll get it. We'll get that straight.
That'll
work.
So will you email me and tell me who to send it to?
Yes, we all got your email address now. So we'll make sure you send it one time, we can all get it. Gotcha.
Okay, that
Right.
sounds good.
All right.
All
Okay,
right, everybody, be safe. Take care. It was a pleasure.
It's a pleasure having you on. Appreciate you.
Okay.
PseudoKillas on deck. It's official.
Okay.
All
Bye-bye.
right. All right. Hey, where you at? You got to end the stream.
Yeah, we're gonna end the show. We're gonna start the after show
part.
in about, I guess, 10 minutes.
Yep. We can start right up. I'm gonna get it.
Good show.
See who want to get slick with it.